It's easy to come up with a list of sanctions. The question is, can you think not just one move ahead, but two moves ahead, three moves ahead? What's the reaction function? How does it actually, what's the blowback? Does it end up hurting you more than it does the enemy, in this case, Russia? And the answer is often yes. And the reason is fairly straightforward, which is, we spent 30 years getting a densely interconnected, globalized economy. How on earth do you think you can blow up one part of it and not affect all the other parts?
Hey guys, welcome back to Library of Wealth. Today we have Jim Rickards giving us his take on the current market and what we can expect from the impending crash that's just around the corner. Rickards will also walk us through the degree of uncertainty we're currently seeing and the role the Fed has played in recent weeks, creating the most inflationary environment in history. He'll discuss why he thinks the economy has been in a slump since 2007, as well as how this will affect the stock and cryptocurrency market until the end of the year. Let's check out this interview with Jim Rickards, where he talks about his prediction for the financial market crash, why he thinks the world of fiat money is changing, and what impact the extreme inflation is having on our currency. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here on this channel. Let's get right into the video.
Just to recite some facts, not opinions, but facts. Russia's oil and natural gas revenues are at all-time highs. Any oil that Europe doesn't want for whatever reason, the Chinese and the Indians are happy to buy it, and they are buying it. They say, well, we're gonna call Lloyd's of London and tell them they're not allowed to insure Russian vessels. Well, it sounds effective. Gee, how are you going to ship the oil if you can't get insurance on the vessel? I guess they've never heard of captive insurance companies or what's called self-insurance. I mean, this goes back to the Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare in the 16th century, which is you get a group together, you got 20 vessels, you all take a slice of your revenue, you put it in a pool, you say, we hope for the best, but if one of those vessels is seized or sinks, then we pay for it out of the pool. That's called self-insurance. That's what people did before insurance companies were invented. So my point being, these things sound good. They have a feel-good aspect to them, but they're tried and true workarounds, or they don't work the way people expect. So Russia's oil and gas revenues are at an all-time high. They've got willing buyers in China and India and elsewhere. By the way, a very long list of countries are neutral on this. We all, US and EU and UK and Canada, Australia, Japan. Okay, that's a pretty powerful bloc. I get it. But look at the major economies that have stayed on the sidelines. So, India, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, et cetera. There's the BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization members in Central Asia, a lot of China. So a lot of very powerful economies are not playing along with this. The ruble is it's almost too strong. I mean, our friend Elvira Nabiullina, the head of the Central Bank of Russia, she may be looking to cut interest rates. In fact, she already has to some extent, to kind of weaken the ruble because it's too strong. It's not only stronger than it was before the war began. It was about 80 to 1. The war began. It had a little quick dip to 140, then came back to 80. But then it went to like 70 and 65. That's a very strong ruble relative to recent years. So again, that helps them get around the boycott because the ruble goes further if you're trying to buy imported goods. So and again, many other examples. So reserves are up, hard currency reserves are up, oil, gas sales are up, the ruble is stronger. And meanwhile, what's going on in the West? In the US, $5 a gallon for gasoline. I know that seems cheap to Europeans, but trust me, for Americans, that's unheard of. Well, it is, it's a record high.
Rickards continues to question what will succeed the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. China and Russia's current monetary systems cannot, due to infrastructure issues. According to Rickards, the current global crisis is only a prelude to the massive financial collapse that will occur in the days and weeks leading up to 2023. He says that a new paradigm has been created through a mix of low inflation and banks manufacturing a free money with no interest rates.
We were a net exporter of oil, now we're an importer at high prices. Although we are exporting, this is just kind of in the news the last couple of days. Everyone knew that we were drawing down our Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the SPD, in theory to mitigate gas price increases in the United States. Well, there's not enough oil, here's some oil, we'll take it out of the Strategic Reserve. Well, number one, The problem was never oil. It's refining capacity. You have to turn the oil into refined products, whether it's gasoline, diesel, or kerosene, which is jet fuel. And the bottleneck is at the refineries, not at the oil, number one. Number two, that strategic petroleum reserve is not, why don't we just pump some? Why are we taking our national security reserve and selling that? Why don't we just pump more oil, which we're entirely capable of doing? That gets into the Green New Scam and all of that, the ideology and the politics of it. But just to make it worse, as if that's not bad enough, there's good evidence that some of those cargoes are going to China. We're not even using our own oil, even though we're diminishing our national security in the process. We're selling it to the main enemy. It's so bad. The policy is so bad that I think I'm a little late to this one. A lot of people reached this conclusion earlier. I was resisting it, but I have to say, stupidity is no longer an explanation. This must be what they want. It's so, if you were just stupid, if you were just dumb, you would be right about half the time. You would be guessing, you wouldn't know what you're doing, but just random outcomes, you would be right about half the time if you were really dumb. To be wrong all the time suggests design. It suggests that this is actually what they want. The greenies want higher gasoline prices because they think it will encourage, discourage gasoline consumption, encourage the purchase of electronic vehicles, EVs, Teslas and so forth. So people who can barely afford a $30,000 cars. The inflation is coming from the supply side. It can come from supply or demand. The supply side means energy, food, transportation costs, and a lot else besides, and then also taking into account the breakdown of the supply chain, which we mentioned earlier. Demand-driven inflation comes from the consumer. It comes from the psychology. Do people feel the prices are going up? And if they do they start to change their behavior and pull demand forward? That's why they call it demand pull inflation, and say, I was thinking about buying a refrigerator. I better go buy it today because the price is going to go up if I wait another month, et cetera. Both of those can be sources of inflation. They can feed on each other. Right now, the inflation is all coming from the supply side. We have not tipped over into a demand-driven inflation, but we're getting dangerously close. So what can the Fed do about the supply side? Well, they don't drill for oil. They don't drive trucks. They can't farm for crops or run a textile mill. The Fed can't do anything about the supply chain or the supply of goods and services. The one thing they can do is raise interest rates enough to destroy demand, not just tamper it, but really destroy it to the point where, hey, maybe I don't like paying a lot for gas, but if I get fired from a job, I might not be buying gas at all, or just cutting down on driving, or, eating cheap substitutes for, better quality food, et cetera, or some people starving. So can the Fed control inflation at the end of the day? The answer is yes, but at an extremely high cost.
Rickards says the best way to combat inflation is by taking away people's buying power. This means less borrowing and less liquidity, which negatively affects markets by causing them to go down. He believes what took us to recession was large injections of debt and money. There's been a significant amount of money that has been given away, and so as people spend more, prices rise. Rickards notes that where resources in the world are allocated, they used to be rooted in an economic and profit basis. Central banks are trying to find a happy medium between having debts repaid in proper money or money that's highly inflated. He urges not to own bubble assets or hold property with low returns. What do you think about Jim Rickards' interview on the state of the economy? Comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.